All right, welcome to another edition of this week's Coaches Show. I'm joined by, this week, Kelly Simon, my partner in the booth on My Country 1290.
Pleasure to be here.
As always, head coach of the Pratt Greenbacks, Brent Holting. Thanks for joining us, fellas. Another game to recap and another one coming up this weekend. We'll get to that Hoisington game last week first. 27-19 loss on homecoming night here at Zerger Field. Ends a three-game stretch of home games for the Greenbacks, and unfortunately fall all three of those home games.
Not a good one.
Kind of just a big that's a big sigh of relief if you're listening of just almost to put that behind you and be like, okay, let's move on from there. Let's recap that Hoisington game a little bit. Like I said, 27-19, but we mentioned it in the booth that, man, if you're a football fan, that was a game to watch. It was just a physical game, a good game all around.
I was really proud of our kids. I thought we played our tails off. I didn't think, after Max got injured against Cheney, I didn't think we responded very well. Thought we were kind of shell-shocked. And we knew there were going to be large swaths of the game. We were without him on Friday, and I thought our kids stepped up and responded. Unfortunately, it's a game we only got. It was one of those games we only got 6 possessions all game. I look back like, man, we only scored 3 times. Well, we only had 6 possessions. Normally, scoring 50% of your possessions is pretty good. We just didn't get enough possessions. It was one of those kind of weird games like that. And, we had the drop pass that ended our first drive. And then after that, we scored 3 drives in a row. And then our last 2, we were inside their 10-yard line and just couldn't quite punch it in. We unfortunately had some cramping, some injuries. Max was in and out. He tried to play through it, but he was pretty hobbled. And that's a good football team, and it's tough when you're running out inexperienced kids or throwing kids all over to really execute at the level you need to beat a team as good as Hoisington. But I was really proud of our kids' effort, and I thought they fought hard.
Yeah, I thought, you mentioned the physicality, and anytime you play, we mentioned it going into that game, just, Zach Barrett, a head coach, one of the better ones in the state, always a physical football team, and that game did not disappoint on the physical sides of things. Some big hits, some big line play by both sides. Kelly, your thoughts on that ball game?
No, it was a good game from all angles there. Like you said, we played a little hobbled in a lot of positions, but you knew coming in it was going to be a tough, hard fought game, and that's exactly what we got. I think Hoisington probably had a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. We beat them 2 years in a row. Really beat them up 2 years ago here opening night, and then last year beat them on their homecoming. So you had to know they and then have some more seniors on the team this year. They kind of came in the favorite on paper, and boy, we gave them all they wanted. Though a couple plays here and there, I think that score goes the other direction. But it was a fun game to watch, and I thought the kids, from my perspective in the booth, fought real hard. I mean, like I said, when you're throwing sophomores and freshmen out there in a varsity football game, it's kind of like, go get them, boys. Good luck.
Yeah, and especially it's different when you're throwing them out there. When you're throwing them out there against the 6'3", 317-pound Hoffman kid.
He would look big.
And some of those kids, they're going to be really good football players, but they look over there, they're like, man, those guys are big.
Guy looks big.
And that's just a natural reaction. Like I said, I thought our kids fought their tails off. A couple different things. Obviously, you never want to blame, and so many things could have turned the game. We had that aiding the runner call down there, would have had 1st and goal at the 1. Then we had the holding call again, would have had 1st and goal at the 2. Just had some unfortunate penalties. But I was really, really proud of our kids' effort. It was one of those games, walk out saying, gosh dang it, we're mad that we lost. But, man, our kids played their tails off. And as a coach, that's all you can ask. And I thought they did that.
Couple stat, Uni still over 200 yards on that game, 210 yards, 2 touchdowns on 25 carries, and probably, like we mentioned it, maybe 70% health, at that game. That might be on the
that'd be pretty optimistic
side for him. Tay Wilson also, again, I think, again, I've said it multiple times, Tay's just exuded. When you talk about grit,
better and better every week.
As a Greenback, the grit that Tay shows is, man, he just plays tough football. 15 carries for him for 71 yards and a touchdown also. Also a huge defensive stand before halftime of that ball game for the Greenbacks there that I thought really changed the momentum. We still went into halftime down 13-14, but had they scored there going into that halftime break, would have really changed it. I think we said it on the broadcast going into that 4th down play. This is whoever gets this, it's going to change the momentum going into halftime. Pratt gets it, gets the stop, goes into halftime. What was that halftime message like after coming off of that defensive stop?
Just keep chopping wood. We talked about you got to stay the course, and then we got to clean some things up defensively. Assignment wise, thought there was a few things that we just weren't. They force you to be so assignment sound football, and then and then we got to read our drops. They hurt us on a couple pass plays on third and long. The big message has been we got to get off the field on third down. I think we're doing a pretty good job of getting teams to third down. They converted a 3rd and 12, 3rd and 14, a 3rd and 7. Those are downs we got to pin our ears back, and we got to get off the field. So that was the message, and it was, hey guys, that was a great stop. We've got the ball. We're down 1. Let's go down and score and go ahead and see what happened. And we did that.
Right.
We did that. Unfortunately, we had a miscommunication on the 2-point conversion. Still thought maybe we got in looking at film. But we didn't, but still got stopped. Obviously, they came back with the big score. And like I said, though, our kids didn't stop fighting. Our kids fought that whole game up until the final whistle. And again, when you play the better teams in the state, like Hoisington is, your margin for error shrinks. And unfortunately, we didn't have that and just made a couple mistakes on Friday night.
Awards after that game, Kelly. We saw a big one by Jack Barker early in that first quarter, I believe. Jack came up,
played
filled
19,
that. Yep. Played 19. There you go. I wasn't that specific with it, but I thought really did a good job that night of coming up. That's something that I know you've stressed throughout the season is those linebackers making their read and then just going and filling that gap. Jack doing a great job of it that time to win our Meade Lumber hit stick of the night. And then our players of the game, we gave it to the whole line, I believe. Yeah, just the way they, we knew that was going to be a big matchup going into that game against the size and physicality of Hoisington. And I thought whenever we wanted to get the outside on them, we did. I mean, they sealed it well and just really, I thought, won the war in the trenches for all the guys on the offensive line. So we thought they did a great job.
It really felt like, from the stands perspective, that the Pratt offense, we were having success on almost every play. We were chunking down the field on them. Where at Hoisington, at times, it felt like, you mentioned it, getting into some long third downs. It was, they'd run right between the tackles and wouldn't even get a yard, and then pretty soon it was 3rd and 12, and it's like, well, 3rd and 12's tough, and they were converting it with some passes. But I didn't feel like Pratt got in a lot of 3rd and longs from where I was sitting, which meant that we were getting positive yardage on a lot of plays, which, when you've got a hobbled running back or some young running backs, feel like that offensive line's creating some space for them.
Absolutely. I thought, like you said, the only time I think we had until the penalties on the last drive where we tried the field goal, the only time I think we got in a third and or 7 or anything like that longer was the first drive of the game. And unfortunately, we had Jack in the flat, and that was going to be a big play if he was able to bring that in, because there was no one within about 15, 20 yards of him. And that was, I thought first drive, it's always a feeling out process. Sure. They did a couple different things defensively that confused our kids a little bit. We make calls and we missed it. We missed a couple. We went wrong. We had a couple on the wrong page. I thought once we fixed that, I don't think we had anything longer than a 3rd and 5 the whole rest of the game, which is good. Anytime we think we can get 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, I feel good about our offense's chances of converting that. We're gonna try to get it on 3rd, and
going on
4th and short, we're probably gonna go.
Yeah.
But I didn't even think we got into too many of those. I thought we moved the ball pretty effectively.
Absolutely.
And like you said, line, we gave our player of the game. I thought Max gutted it out. Anytime you can be probably about 50%, and there was a lot of cuts that normally I think Max would have made big gains on. He just couldn't quite plant and accelerate. But still, to have 210 yards against that defense on 25 carries, I thought Brock Bourgeois played spectacular on defense. I thought he was a man amongst boys. I really did. I thought this was probably the best game of his career in terms of offense and defensively. I thought he played fantastic. That's a kid. He came. He texted me after the Cheney game and said, rip me apart in film. I got to get better. Do what you need to do.
Oh, you like to hear that.
Oh, man, Brock's an incredible kid. I mean, just an absolutely incredible human being, too. And Brock's as tough as they come, and he was like, hey, we're going to get better. And he really stepped up his leadership the last 2 weeks, and I can't say enough about him. I thought he played really well. You mentioned Jack got the hit stick. That was a great hit. He came up and stuck him and put him on his back. So I thought a lot of positives, a lot of growth overall, and just hope we keep doing it every week.
Well, you mentioned that field goal, the first field goal we've seen Pratt kick this season. Do you mind walk us through that decision of to kick that or to go for it? I know it was on 4th and 12.
Yeah, 4th and 12.
4th and 12. Tough spot. I totally understand. Just put some points on the board. I didn't know if there was what the dilemma in your mind might have been there to either kick, or if it was just an easy decision to kick it.
the first one when we were down 2 and didn't kick it when we had 4th and 4. Creston's our normal holder. He's out for the season.
Okay.
Max is our backup holder. He was out getting his ankle taped. So we didn't have a holder
Okay.
ready to go, or we probably would have tried to go up. Andy's been really good in practice. I mean, today he was 100% on 8 kicks, and one of them was from 40. He's kicked really well. And unfortunately we Max missed the tee. Missed the kicking tee there.
Oh.
So it came off the kicking tee a little bit. On that one, he was trying to spin it, get the laces out, and he spun it off the tee as Andy was kicking it. So that's kind of what happened. But they're doing a pretty good job. Unfortunately, those are just things that happen in a game. Andy's been really accurate. So that was kind of our thought process. He's kicked really well. We have confidence in Andy. 4th and 12 against that defense is going to be pretty tough to convert. I thought our odds, because we've kicked so well in practice, were higher kicking a field goal, taking the lead. There was only about 5 minutes left in the game than they were of
converting 4th and 12.
Right.
Yeah, that's a tough down there. 4th and 12. As good as Max has run, I mean, run's always an option, but with Hoyt and his defense as tough as they were about a passing down, and then it's like, oh, we're going to drop back and throw
you're so
a pass.
condensed. Maybe in the middle of the field, you got more options.
Field to work with,
but,
sure.
But you run, even if they play to the end zone, they can come up and stop you when it's so many yardage. So when you have so many yards to gain, it's easier for them to come up when the field's condensed. It's a little harder to make those conversions in the red zone.
Yeah. All right, moving on to Smokey Valley this week. Played them last year, won that ball game. That was our homecoming game last year, 47-30 here at Zerger Field. A lot of seniors on that Smokey Valley team last year, graduated. A much younger team this year. Smokey Valley's going to come into this ball game 0-5 on the season. Been shut out the last 2 ball games. Is that right, Kelly? Last 3 ball games.
Haven't scored a point since your last paycheck.
Only Kelly. So a young team looking for a win. With us coming to town, historically only played 5 times. Looking at Kelly's score sheet here,
I can only come up with 5.
5 matchups is all Kelly found in the history between Pratt and Smokey Valley, and all, like you said, within the last decade have been pretty recent.
That's right. Got close a few times. We can talk about that later, but we didn't ever meet. Almost met in the playoffs 3 times in the 90s. They were 1 game short every time. They didn't hold up their end of the bargain. We won, they didn't.
And we would have faced them had they won. So what's the mindset going? Like I said, coming off of our home stretch, now back on the road for the Greenbacks. Still a little banged up, but I know as a fan and watching high school football, feels like this is a game we can win, should win, and maybe get some rest for some of those guys that are banged up. How do you also navigate that mindset though, but also get so ready to go out and play a football game?
I think like I said, I told our kids all week this and really any week, it's about us. It's about us improving and being the best version of ourselves. We talk all the time about being the best you can be. And so we've talked about that. We talked about, we always have a word of the week theme, and our word of the week this week is perseverance. We talked about how to get to anything worthwhile, you got to go through adversity. If it's too easy, it's not worth it. And that, when you get tough tests, you just keep pushing, keep fighting, and that satisfaction when you achieve what you want to achieve is that much greater. Smokey's one of those teams, like you said, they're young. I think they've been a little beat up. I know they're going to get some kids back this week that have been back. So we don't know what they'll be with those. I know when talking to the coach, he said they're going to get a few guys back today, a few of their older kids. They'll replace some of the younger kids they've had in. Teams like this to me are always dangerous because they're 0-5. Like you said, they've had a little trouble scoring. Now they've had a tough schedule, but you never know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
They may throw the kitchen sink at you with trick plays, with new packages, stuff like that. So I think it's a good week to just focus on, hey, let's be fundamentally sound. Let's get aligned correctly, because that's we really had a lot of issues with that. When we had issues with Hoisington the other night, is because we weren't getting aligned correctly. And then same thing offensively, we've got to get our younger kids that are getting pushed into some playing time. We've got to get the offense down stone cold and execute. It's always hard. JV, we get, junior high, they have a small sliver of the offense, and then JV, they get just a little bit more. And then all of a sudden on varsity Friday nights, it opens up quite a bit. The playbook expands by 50-60% or so. So that's always a learning curve when you're younger, because you don't have that natural progression that sometimes is easier to all of a sudden it's all thrown at you. Hey, learn all of this, learn your reads, learn where you're going here, learn what you're doing here, what this call means, what that call means. So I think our focus this week has been on us, and let's get better at what we do. Let's get aligned correctly. Let's fly to the football. Let's keep getting better at tackling. Let's keep getting more aggressive. Got to get better in pass coverage. And then offensively, clean up assignment-wise. I thought we played hard. We just got to clean up some assignment stuff.
You mentioned the JV and those younger kids. I always like to hear your scout team player of the year. You did mention that one.
Oh, yeah.
Scout team player of the week. I always like those
Madden
young
Wilson.
kids. Okay, Madden Wilson.
Yeah. Madden's going to be a good player for us. His big thing is he's got to gain. If he was as confident in himself as us coaches are in him, Madden's going to be a Friday night player sooner rather than later once he realizes how athletic he is and how big he is and strong he is. But Madden, the great thing about Madden, we never have to ask him to hop in on a scout team. Never have to ask. Sometimes you have to fill in 8, 9, 10, 11. Madden's always out there. He's always playing. He does a good job there, and he's going to be a kid that's going to be playing for us on Friday nights sooner rather than later.
Kelly, thoughts on this Smokey Valley game coming up? What have you seen so far?
Like Coach said, it's a deal that, on paper, Pratt's a heavy favorite in the game, but they're not going to give us any points for showing up in our jerseys, are they?
Right.
Not that I know of.
And we got to get right too.
You still got to go out, execute. I think if you do that, I think Pratt's in a good position to gain a win with some confidence here. Obviously, I'm really skipping ahead here, but same story next week against Nickerson, and then build up to the big one after that. But I really think, like Coach said, it's a good week to work on a few things as far as working out the little kinks here and there. And if we show up and play our style of football, I think we'll come out of there just fine.
That's what I'm predicting as well. Finish up the recap on the Smokey Valley talk before we get out of here. New schedules for next year.
Yep.
Next 2 years came out today.
Today we
talked about them quite a bit before we got on air here, and we don't have to get as in depth on that right now. But want to give us a rundown on changes to the district. We got a new district next year. Got a new schedule, and if you want to talk a little bit about the madness of how that is formed, that's kind of entertaining. But
it is. So schedule-wise, first we open up with Hoisington next year at home, and then we'll go to Halstead week 2. We'll have Larned at home week 3, Clearwater at home week 4, and that's the beginning of our district play. Our district is Clearwater, and then week 5, Wichita Collegiate's in our district. We'll be there. Week 6 was a crazy week. That's our off district week. We had to go find a matchup, and it got a little crazy there for a little bit.
That's what it sounded like.
Didn't want to play us. Didn't work out. So we had to go. We're going to Phillipsburg. So play Phillipsburg. That'll be a fun game with a team with a lot of tradition. They've won 2 state titles, I think, in the last 7 years or so.
Pratt ever played Phillipsburg, Kelly? Do you know?
I would
off
say
the top of your
not.
head?
No, I would say there's no way.
I'll have to look in that. We were talking about that today, both with their coaches too. But
I'm almost
so we
sure.
got them week 6 there. Then week 7, Chaparral's a new entry to 3A, and they're in our district. We got them at home for senior night, and then week 8, Cheney again. It's at Cheney. So that's our schedule for next year. So our districts: Cheney, Chaparral, Clearwater, and Collegiate. A lot of C's.
It's been the H's forever.
Yeah.
Now it's the C's.
So what they do is Coach Swank and I went up there today. Most ADs, coaches in the state go up there all across the state, and Salina and the Tony's Event Center, and you meet, you kind of, you talk to your guys early, like, hey, are you interested if we have an opening? Are you? Yeah, And I had a bunch of those set up. Unfortunately, none of them came in our bye week in districts. So with a 5-team district, every team has a week, and you don't know. You find out when you get the sheet, and they talk about the rules, and they announce, all right, there's people here, and here. Don't run them over. Go get your sheet now. And they have all the sheets with all the district assignments on them. And you sprint over there, you grab a sheet. And once you find your district and what number team you are in the district, that tells you that you already had a sheet that if your team, like we were team 4 has bye week 6. And so then you start going around, hey, do you have bye week 6? Hey, do you have bye week 6? Hey, which one of you has bye week? Well, and then you go down the list. Now, the tricky part is some teams can change. Like they can say, hey, I'm team 4 in this district, but we had a matchup for this week. Would you want to switch me and be team 4 and I'll be team 1? And so, you don't ever know that until
Gotcha.
So there was one of those. We had a league school that was open that week, but they didn't want to. They elected to go another direction than us. And then we were really scrambling. And then they have projectors in every corner. You start writing. I was going to get ready to go write down. Pratt week 6. We need a game. We'll go anywhere. And I saw Phillipsburg had a week 6, and so I looked over. I went and found Phillipsburg's. Every league has a table. Went and go found theirs. Said, hey, Phil, you guys still got week 6 open? Yeah. And I said, Pratt does too. Let's play. They said, all right, let's do it.
And so that's how the deals are made.
And so and then said, well, let's go talk to our ADs. Let's see what they say. The coaches kind of worked that out, and Mr. Schlank's really good about, I'm not going to schedule a game without my head coach approving it. And so we went and talked to him, and they said, hey, do you have this? Yep. What do you need, home or away? And then we agreed on the game, and then that's when you go back and, okay, who's home, who's away, who's to try to balance your schedule out.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Until
it's a pretty wild
last year,
hour.
I think, talking to you, I had no idea that much craziness and madness went into, how you form games, and that you had kind of choice over, who you could go out, try to get and play. So really interesting on how that schedule.
Now, when we scheduled our first 3 weeks at a league meeting last week.
Okay.
That way because when we know those are open, the problem is when district play starts, there's only 2A and 3A, the way our setup now, are the only 2 with 5-team districts. So we're the only ones with open weeks when district play starts. And 4, 5, and 6, they have their schedules set in advance because they're open scheduling. So you can't get any of them. So you have to play a 2 or 3A school on that week. So if you look across the state, there's only 15 other 2 or 3A schools that have the same bye week as you. And that's includes, 8 of them that are in the East.
Yeah.
So that are a long ways away sometimes. So it gets pretty intense, pretty crazy, pretty quickly.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
It sounds like it. So that'll be the schedule for the 2024-2025 season. Those are 2-year schedules, and those will be locked in, and then redo the whole thing 2 years after that. That's going to do it for us here, Kel, unless you got anything before we wrap it up.
Big picture, Coach. I know we're 5 games into the season here. Is that right? 5? Yeah.
Yep.
5 games into the season. A couple big games. I know we're always worried about the team in front of us. I get that from the coach's perspective. But a couple games to keep your eye on this week. I'm sure you are behind the scenes. Holcomb Scott City. Play this week. Decent chance, and I know a lot of things have to happen for that, but decent chance one of those 2 might be our week 9 opponent. We'll see how the season finishes out. Cheney-Andale, another big game. Keep your eyes on those. See what happens.
Andale plays Collegiate.
I'm sorry,
yeah.
Collegiate Andale. Sorry, I got ahead of myself there. That's another week away. But a couple of neat games there that are going to have an impact on us later down the season. We'll keep our eye on the scores. You bet.
Yep.
So,
All right. Well, tune in. Smokey Valley has a great YouTube broadcast. If you're going to watch the game Friday night, if you can't make your way up to that ball game, Smokey Valley will put on the YouTube stream. We will be on My Country 98.3. You can either download the app, listen there, or tune in to 98.3 FM, and that's where you can find Kelly and I on the broadcast. Other than that, stay tuned with Facebook updates for anything else that may change, and that's going to do it for another edition of the Coach's Show. Coach Holting, appreciate you joining us. Kelly, thanks for coming in.
see you Friday night.
All right, that'll do it.